July 1969, you're probably an ex-test pilot with a Boy Scout badge for spitting in the face of death, and on that day you find yourself at Kennedy Space Center, wearing a spacesuit and about to board a strange machine. The machine is called the Saturn V rocket and is about 3 blue whales high, weighs about as much as 35 737s, and very shortly, 1 million liters of liquid oxygen are going to mix with 700,000 liters of kerosene, and the machine is going to go brrrr and quite possibly kill you dead. So you hop in with your 2 other mates, strap up, and try to ignore the fact that you're about to ride the explosive equivalent of 400 tons of TNT up into the sky on the back of 7.5 million pounds of thrust. And sure enough, a system of valves open below you, mixing the liquid oxygen and kerosene, and are ignited. The cabin rocks left to right with the guidance computer gimbaling the 5 gigantic F1 engines 300 feet below you, desperately trying to stop you smashing into the launch tower. You are squashed back into your seat 4 times your normal weight. By 9:35 a.m, you're 42 miles high, riding 5% of America's federal budget into the morning sky. By 9:44 a.m, the first 2 stages of the rocket are jettisoned and you're 118 miles high. By 12:22 p.m, you're in orbit, going at 24,000 miles an hour, or if you prefer, speeding around the Earth at about 17 times faster than a bullet. By 12:49, you get the word you'll go for translunar injection. A few minutes of engine burn later, and you're now headed out of Earth orbit. You blow the bolts, connecting the 2 sections of your rocket ship, separating your module from the lunar module, spin them around, and dock again. The Earth begins to recede behind you. By 2:45 p.m, you're now riding 26 tons of food, instruments, and science at about 25,000 miles an hour. You are the commander of Apollo 11, and while 2 NASA missions have orbited the moon already, yours will now attempt to be the first to land and stand on that alien world. Fun fact, peeing in zero gravity is a nightmare. To counteract this, since all Apollo astronauts were men, engineers developed a system whereby one would urinate into a condom attached to a hose. The condom sizes came in small, medium, and large. Legend has it that some astronauts were choosing the large size based on pride, and some were making a mess because it wasn't the right size. Allegedly, NASA opted to rename the sizes extra large, immense, and unbelievable. Yeah, space exploration. Anyway, what is this big white thing you're flying towards? Where did it come from? Well, no one knows for sure yet. The leading theory is that about 4 billion years ago, something about the size of Mars, a planet we've called Theia, hit the Earth, and bits of the Earth came off and eventually collected together into old Moonface McGee herself. She's about 81 times lighter than the Earth, about 1/3 the diameter, bigger than Pluto by the way, but most things are, and her gravity is around 1/6 ours. It takes the moon 27 days to orbit us properly, but it also takes the moon 27 days to turn once on her axis, which means we only ever see one side of the moon. The reason the moon looks different to us through the month is her position relative to the sun. As she swings around us, she's either between us and the sun, called new moon, waxes into the first quarter, then full, wanes into third quarter, and back to new. And moons in our solar system aren't unique at all. Mars has 2, Neptune has 14, Saturn has 82. But we are the only planet in our solar system with 1 moon, weirdly, and she is by far the largest relative to her planet. No good explanation for any of that yet, but boy are we glad she's here. She kindly regulates the tides and stops us wobbling on our axis. All in all, very pretty, very mysterious, and would you look at that, you're almost there. Well, about 33,000 miles away, but you've entered the moon's sphere of influence. That means the moon has more gravitational power over you than the Earth does. Shoes off, best behavior please. You're in her house now. Out the window and below is a barren expanse, a visual history of great violence. Craters where comets hit, some as wide as 175 kilometers in diameter. One astronaut stays in the command module while you and your colleague transfer to the lunar module. And before you know it, you're separated and descending to the surface. Ancient and dead volcanoes have covered the moon in 23 of what our ancestors mistook for Maria, Latin for seas as we still call them today. The Sea of Crises, the Eastern Sea, and there, our destination, the Sea of Tranquility. But you're traveling too fast for some reason and overshooting the landing spot. Still, you've come all this way and you'll be damned if you quit here. 6,000 feet above now, alarms go off. 12:01 and 12:02. No one back on Earth is sure what that even means, but they advise you to carry on with the descent. Beside you, your co-pilot calls out the altitude. You're now coming down on the southwestern edge of the Sea of Tranquility. But there are boulders the size of trucks everywhere, no sign of flat. You can't land here. You take over manual control, desperately looking for a smooth area to set down, the biometric sensors reading your heart rate at 156 beats per minute. 700 feet, 400 feet, fuel is dribbling away. If you can't find a safe spot, you have to abort the entire mission. 150 feet, 75 dropping still, then a dust cloud kicks up beneath you, 5 feet, 2, 1.5, 1, and your co-pilot calls contact light, and with a jolt and only 15 seconds of fuel left, you're down. And you say,
Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed.
The schedule calls for the two of you to sleep, but you're the first humans to visit the moon for God's sake. During this time, your co-pilot takes Holy Communion, though does it on the quiet. NASA is currently engaged in a lawsuit with an atheist who had objections to a previous mission orbiting the moon and reading from the Bible as it did so. Then, at 2:39 a.m., you open the hatch and slowly descend the ladder. You pull a lever, activating the camera already on the outside of the lunar module to witness what is about to come next. You reach the bottom of the ladder, still standing on the leg now. You observe the surface of the moon is granular, almost like powder. You uncover a plaque on the lunar module saying, "Here, men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon. July 1969, Anno Domini. We came in peace for all mankind." Tentatively, you step back with your left foot onto the first celestial body humankind has ever visited. And having been allowed to choose those first words on a new world, you say, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind," which will later be misquoted repeatedly without the indefinite article as "one small step for man," which makes no sense if you think about it, because that would mean one small step for humanity, one giant leap for humanity. But whatever, you're on the moon. Your colleague exits the lunar module, pausing on the ladder a few moments to become the first human ever to urinate while outside on the moon, then joins you on the surface. You erect a United States flag and accept a call directly from your then president, Richard Nixon. The two of you experiment with transport methods, including kangaroo hops. You set up scientific equipment, you take photos, collect ground samples, but this picnic runs on oxygen. So 2.5 hours later, after setting foot down here, the two of you climb the ladder again and return to the lunar module and attempt to sleep. You sleep, not very well, but a little. It's time now to go home. You're both relying on a single ascent engine that can only be fired once, meaning one chance to leave. Your colleague has somehow damaged the circuit breaker for the engine in the course of moving about. You jam a felt-tip pen in there, hoping your third colleague will be flying overhead shortly, waiting to rendezvous if all goes well. The ascent engine is fired, everything goes fine. At 1/6 Earth's gravity, making it into orbit is a doddle. Your colleague catches you in orbit perfectly and you're reunited. A burn to leave lunar orbit and you're on your way. Back home to praise and awards and another Boy Scout badge for not only spitting in the face of death but kicking him right in the disco stick too. And curiously, several hours later on the television sets of the world, people, American and non-American, will say, "We did it. We did it." As if that plaque left on the surface rings true already. We came in peace for all mankind. And during your 3-day journey back to Earth, perhaps you'll wonder when we'll come back to the moon. In 4 months, actually. Then 5 months later, but that doesn't go so well. 9 months later, that time goes fine. 6 months later, 9 months, and then the last mission 8 months later. And as much as it might surprise you to hear, for the next half-century, humans will never leave Earth orbit again. Oh, there'll be shuttles and space stations, horrific disasters, collaboration, but all from the tether of Earth's gravity. For us in the future though, things might finally be about to change. Firstly, NASA have committed themselves to returning to the moon with humans by 2024 as of today, and they've been busy bees designing the Space Launch System to launch in 2021. It could get us back to the moon easy. But now we have commercial projects taking off. SpaceX, Blue Origin, Boeing, all of them vying to get us back on the lunar surface. Things are occurring. Obviously, going back to the moon for science is attractive, but science probably won't be enough to keep us there because cha-ching ching, etc. There are plenty of resources for mining on the moon. Gold, platinum, yada yada, and rather more unique, helium-3, an isotope useful for nuclear fusion. But the real dog's gonads to go back for is more spacing. The moon would be a perfect base of operations for A, serving as a practice ground for learning how to live in hostile places for when we go to certain other planets soon, which we will, and B, fueling up and maintaining vehicles leaving Earth on their way beyond to other spots in the solar system when we go, which we will. Also, we could build mass drivers to shoot objects elsewhere with no need for propellant, establish farms, schools, administration, Buzz Aldrin took a wee on the moon first day, whatever, but a beginning, a point of departure to the rest of the solar system. And one day, long from now, but one day, beyond the solar system too, perhaps. If this is what you wake up to every morning, if this is the view from your lunar window, how would you feel about our petty squabbles back on Earth? No astronaut has ever returned from space and said, "Yeah, the universe was alright, not as good as a nice fight though, eh? Come here, you little." Almost all of them came back more placid, more prudent, and more inclined to see our planet as the fragile marble that it is. And as those lunar humans would look down on our fragile condition, we'd look up at them every night, and it would be a constant reminder not only of the power of human endeavour, but that we're out in the universe now. And surely that would change all of us down here. And if we're very lucky, maybe even change us for the better. 50 years later, we're still living in the shadow of the Apollo program, when hundreds of thousands of men and women came together, spent a titanic amount of money, utilized an ungodly amount of brainpower to achieve something that was, by any estimation, impossible. And they did it. Some days it feels like we've forgotten how to do this, to dream crazy big together, to reach for something together, to look out beyond bickering and this my team, your team rubbish. There's an infinite playground just waiting out there for us to explore as brothers and sisters. Obviously, the Apollo program came directly out of competition between the US and the Soviet Union. It's not like the US went to the moon just because they fancied a nice view, but the solidarity inside the Apollo program and the directed attention of the American citizenry towards space was like nothing we've ever seen before. Many of you watching this, and me, we weren't alive to see the moon landings. We didn't grow up with a single event in media that was a human project, on behalf of the entire species. How will we feel when we see that first man or woman putting that first boot down on the red sands of Mars? I, for one, will be crying my eyes out, just happy I got to live long enough to see my species at the beginning of leaving its cradle and finally learning to walk. And then we will learn to run to the orbits of Venus, Titan, Ganymede, wherever we feel like, because that is us. Because audacity is what we do, sometimes violently, sometimes misguidedly, but sometimes, every now and then, in solidarity together. And for the love of reaching one mountain peak, just to look to the next. In our solar system, waiting for us, there are 7 new mountains with 7 new sunrises and 7 new sets of secrets. And if that doesn't unify us, Christ, nothing will. And it will all start with the moon, our home away from home, as the springboard into the multiplanetary age of the human being. We choose to go back to the moon and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are cool. To follow our evolutionary imperative, as it began with our emergence from the oceans and our many perilous diasporas across this great blue-green spaceship. We've been on 6 dates together, Moon. Sorry we ghosted you, we've been going through some stuff. But we've changed, Moon. No more long distance, oh no. Let's get it together properly. We're sliding back into DMs, baby. How about it? Let's settle down together and raise a solar civilization, eh? These are precarious times. So too were they precarious half a century ago when those first explorers set off for space. If we can hold it together, this might be just the beginning of the beginning for our species. Because we are currently audacity monkeys, but we could be forever monkeys if we wanted to. And the moon is clearly our door into that forever. On the mountain is the eternal city of Antiri, the place where there are no secrets. And while the citizens do not smile so much, they hardly frown either. Jewels and objects of great worth lie in the streets, for there is no theft where there are no secrets, and there are no secrets in Antiri. Long ago, during the War of Magical Technology, the city sheltered a great wizard, and in return for the city's kindness, the wizard enchanted the water of Antiri, such that one need only stare into the reflection of a puddle or wash basin and ask after a person or place one should like to see, and be shown that thing in its entirety. It's not spying. Spying is an exclusive activity, and since anyone can watch anyone, this is simply how the Antirians live. They have no word for secrecy. Life was turbulent at first, the whispered slights of the bathhouse, the swindles of the marketplace suddenly watchable for all, plus crime rings and crooked politicians could be listened in on at a moment's notice, illicit love affairs observed by anyone sufficiently voyeuristic. But the adjustment was made. Recent generations have grown up with no concept of concealment and do not seem to suffer for it. Everything is visible in the water. Even the most mundane act, the brushing of one's teeth, the brewing of one's tea, is performed with attention and flair, for anyone and everyone may be watching. There is nothing hidden. Every eye is all seeing and all seen. But Antiri's transparency is not for everyone, and for those who cannot bear such a way of life, far below, by the ocean, swaddled always in fog, is the eternal city of Tynograd, the place where there are only secrets. The citizens don't frown so much, but they hardly smile either. Possessions are many, and doors are unlocked, since there is no desire unfulfilled in Tynograd, and there is no theft where there is no desire unfulfilled. For it was here, long ago, the Great Wizard first went for shelter and was refused. And to thank the people of Tynograd for their apathy, he returned at the conclusion of the war and enchanted the water here too. The wet fog that permeates every street and house, the snow that thaws come spring. Though while the water in Tynograd sees all, citizens have no access to its omniscient visions. There is only one watcher. Out of the bedrooms, where glasses on nightstands listen of those mumbled untold secrets the Tynagradians admit in their sleep. Down the cobbled stones, where the puddles watch of land disputes and unrequited love. To the harbour, where the ocean silently records of overpriced fish and drunken bar brawls. Out into the bay, where there resides a great kraken who watches. The kraken never sleeps, never falters, its mind unjudging as a seismograph. And the kraken is very hungry, and its favourite meal is secrets, as delivered by the water to its unblinking eyes, the secrets of Tynograd, each impulse and desire of each citizen, such that they may be met if favourable to the market, or suppressed if not, such that at the slightest hint of eccentricity citizens may be placed under heightened surveillance, such that none need ever fear or want. And in return for this miracle of constant safety and satisfaction, all the Kraken requires is a little knowledge, and all it wants to know is everything. Give me your tired thoughts, your poor decisions, your huddled missives yearning to be free. Who have you been going to bed with? Who would you like to go to bed with? Thinking of starting a family? Thinking of cutting off your family? Preferred brand of breakfast cereal? Least favourite season? What does home mean to you? And if the miracle should falter for a second, and a citizen might catch sight of a great hungry eye peering from the water, and cry out, "These are secrets, and my secrets are all I have," the Kraken only replies, "You ungrateful little insect, for what pretty things I have sold you, what peacetimes I have delivered you, what love I have shown you, what..." Is privacy for? How do we resist the increasingly aggressive attempts to remove it from us? And is this video sponsored by an easy-to-use and reliable VPN? Fuck no, it is not. If you don't live alone, but get the chance to sometime, I would recommend it, because you can constantly eat junk food without shame, become entirely nocturnal, and discover the true meaning of independent living.
Oh yeah, where's your toilet regime now, Mum?
But living alone is a pretty recent phenomenon. Just sleeping alone is a pretty recent phenomenon, even for the historically rich. Privacy is an invention. We made that shit up. But how do we get here? Well, for the first few 100,000 years of our time on this watery spaceship, it is unlikely there were many loners. For hunter-gatherers, going it alone probably meant death, because strength in numbers was about the only trick that kept us alive. We were social by necessity, and we didn't do walls yet, so other than the confines of your own mind, how could you have privacy in that social configuration? What was the mostest game-changing human invention? Fire, the transistor, all pretty rad, yes? But the wall is going to be up there in the top 5 at least. We've been doing walls for about 23,000 years now, the oldest one we found being in Greece. Of course it's Greece, it's always Greece. And not only do walls signify property, and property is a pretty weird idea if you've never heard of it before. First person to get the land gets the land forever. Why? But it also means security, means castles, means established power structures, and it's only so long before walls start to mean privacy. And that was more or less codified, for the first time we know of, by the Greeks, because it's always the Greeks, isn't it? And the distinction between the polis and the oikos. The polis being public life, politics, shit you did outside really, and the oikos, your house, your family life, shit you did inside really. But even then, in most Greek tragedies, the only thing worse than getting executed was being alone, being exiled. Still, our ancestors understood privacy of the mind just fine, as in secrets.
The Chinese managed to keep the particulars of silk production a secret for over 1,000 years by making you dead if you blab to anyone. Then there was Greek fire, because it's always the fucking Greeks, isn't it? A flammable slime used by the Byzantines during battle. Yeah, that's right, a 7th century flamethrower. And the secret of its composition was so well kept, we still don't really know what the hell it was today. Also, the legend goes that when Genghis Khan died, his funeral escort kept his burial site a secret by murdering anyone they passed on the way there. Bit heavy-handed, but points for execution. Literally. I long to die. For the next ages, us Europeans at least did pretty much everything under the gaze of someone else while at home, eating, weeping, and sleeping. It's how we built our houses. It wasn't until the 17th century that some genius thought to invent an entire room for the bed. The bedroom, if you will. But beds themselves were crazy expensive. Most homes could only afford a single bed, shared by family and guests, which meant not only did you get to witness your nearest and dearest sleeping, but all the other activities that might occur in a bedroom. And while there wasn't really a concept of medieval privacy either, there were ways to obtain a little alone time, like pissing off the church and getting excommunicated. Big fun. Or cutting off heads for a living. Working as an executioner was so shameful you wouldn't be invited into others' homes, couldn't enter churches, and had to live on the fringes of town. If privacy is the right to be let alone, then along with monks, executioners were arguably kind of the pioneers of something beginning to sound like modern privacy. But it would take a while yet. In the early 1900s, Abigail Roberson one day noticed a photo of herself on a poster advertising flour. She didn't remember endorsing any flour, so she sued the company in question for using her likeness without her permission. She won the case. However, the defendants appealed, claiming they hadn't taken anything of worth from her, and they won the appeal. The chief judge writing, actually, she should be touched, as the ad was, quote, a compliment to her beauty. Aha. But a pleasant surprise, the public was pissed at the ruling. Maximum pissed, resulting not too long after in the first instance of legislation forbidding using one's likeness without their permission. The beginning of modern privacy, really. Ironically, the chief judge we just mentioned, who ruled against her and said she should be stoked because she was pretty and shut up, would run for president in a few years, and after getting snapped constantly by photographers, waxed at great length about how it was an invasion of his privacy. Abigail Roberson reminded him in a letter in the New York Times, but you said there is no right to privacy. Not so fun when it's being done to you, eh? What a twat. And in just a few decades, Jesus Cristo, things are about to get weirder. Because by now, it's the 1960s. Computers are rather massive, trousers are rather silly, and the Cold War is heating up. The US Department of Defense is interested in distributing information across computers in case one link in the chain, let's say, breaks down a bit. Enter ARPANET, the first packet switch network and grandfather of the modern internet. And the first message ever sent over ARPANET from UCLA to Stanford Research Institute was supposed to be login. However, the system fell over after 2 letters, meaning the internet's first message to the world was low. As in, lo and behold, I have arrived, you fucks. First words don't get better than that. By 1971, the first email has been sent. By 1973, the first transatlantic connection is made. Then by 1978, Robert Kahn and Vint Cerf have designed TCP/IP, or Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. And if the internet talks in the language, this is it. By the 90s, Tim Berners-Lee has kindly invented the World Wide Web, the retrieval of information architecture the modern net is built on top of, making possible hypertext, hyperlinks, and the first website. You can still visit it today. And naturally comes the first webcam. It monitors a coffee machine at Cambridge University for some reason. 1993, the first graphical web browser, Mosaic, and then the Moolah. Oh, the Moolah. 1994, and Amazon.com makes its first sales. One of them notably to Bulgaria for some books paid for in cash, which is sent over hidden inside a floppy disk so the customs inspectors won't steal it. Clever as ever. Običante Bulgaria. Then enter me and perhaps you. 90s internet was pretty weird. A patchwork amalgamation of misfiring search engines, god-awful site design, and if someone had the audacity to phone your house, all they got was the sound of the modem. It was fucking great. But stranger, while most technologists have been expecting a robotics revolution for the end of the century, what we got instead was a communications revolution. Clearly preferable since, yeah, the internet can't fetch your tea, but more importantly, you can't watch pornography on a robot. And really, this is just one idiot's biased nostalgia for a simpler time. But not a few decades ago, the hope for what the internet could do was limitless. Most societal issues surely stemmed from a lack of information, and with all human knowledge at our fingertips, we would all eventually come to the same objective conclusions, emerge from division and ignorance, and draw together in peace as a unified digital family. And that went so-so. Oh yeah, Utopia must be just over the hill now, mate. I can almost see it. Oh no, that's just my dad's OnlyFans account. Hey dad! What a brave new world we've built. Somehow Brave New World and 1984 at the exact same time. We were promised the end of history. We were promised ultimate truth. We're supposed to be solving world hunger and building interstellar starships. What is Chungus? I do not understand. What have we done to ourselves? We've broken epistemology itself, sacrificed truth in favor of mediated hyper-reality. And for what? For what? What the fuck is Chungus? Sorry, we were supposed to be talking about privacy, weren't we? Well, we're kind of boned right now, and to talk about that, we'll need a patronizingly simple history of privacy, which we've sort of just done, and some kind of beat, preferably a fat one. Yep, that'll do. Hey, this is the Panopticon. It's a prison design. A guard tower sits at the center so the guard can see all the inmates in a helpful 360 panorama. The twist is that the prisoners can't see into the tower and so never know when they're being watched, so they may as well assume they're always being watched. The constant implication of surveillance. And what relevance could this have as a modern metaphor? We already know that governments are snooping on our digital lives with impunity, but it's not just states playing that game. We're now knee-deep in a technological moment the thinker Shoshana Zuboff calls surveillance capitalism, or rather, turning the internet into a data mill for no fun and lots of profit. And it has the potential not just to corrupt the future of the internet, but remove any possibility of digital privacy ever again. In the early 2000s, the dot-com bubble burst. This was a problem for Silicon Valley because no one quite knew how to monetize the internet yet, and that 17th personal yacht ain't just gonna buy itself. Google was clever. They noticed that courtesy of all the searches they were providing, they were sat on a massive buffet of data from and about their users. Lots of that data could be used to optimize Google itself, but a huge amount was left over and incidental, which we may as well call behavioral surplus. This was simple stuff at first, like noticing if a user makes a lot of typos, maybe that means they're in a hurry, or if they're particularly diligent about apostrophes, maybe they're all bookish or whatever. But in a stroke of Walter White levels of cunning, Google realized they could use this leftover information to generate predictive patterns about a user's moods and desires, and create absurdly well-targeted advertising. And great googly moogly, it worked. It made them rich beyond all imagining. And the best part is, it's free. Users gave them their secrets for free in searches. Now, at this point, no one is surprised that if, in a moment of 3:30 a.m. whiskey-induced curiosity, one searches Willy Bigger How, you will be bombarded for the next 15 years with adverts for questionable tonics and small weights on long strings. Kinda weird, kinda annoying, but it's so much more sinister than that. Because as Google branched out into media and email and navigation, the data points for behavioral surplus for its users' secrets grew and grew. The inner lives of Google's users became its primary resource, a fully automated data mill extracting highly specific details of a user's psychology and turning that into big bucks via advertising. And of course, the more data you collect about users, as in the more behavioral surplus you extract, the more behavioral correlations you can find, and the more efficient the game gets. If I know that you're trying to sell a wedding ring and hire a divorce lawyer, then I also know you're probably at that point in your life when some 95% vodka made from deck chairs could sound appealing. Just been for a run? Unrelatedly, check out these amazing shoes. Contemplating turning your life around? Would some deck chair vodka help? And other companies soon got in on behavioral surplus too, because if you throw health trackers and digital thermostats and smart cars into the mix, all of them collecting buckets of personal data, it's possible to build an even more accurate model of your desires, or just sell that information to third parties. One's commute route and heart rate and sleep habits, all helpfully recorded and transmitted by the one object that will probably stay no more than a foot away from our bodies for the rest of our lives. Data one thought was one's own, data that are being sold on for staggering amounts of money, to the point that it is now an economy in itself. Brokers whose only job is to sell an entire profile of you, what you eat, what conditions you suffer from, voting habits, sexual orientation, your secrets. Your secrets, these obligate fucking carnivores. As Shoshana Zuboff puts it, you take something from someone without their knowledge, claim you own it, and then use it to become unprecedentedly wealthy. Or, you know, theft. Yeah, but is it really theft if it doesn't impact us on a day-to-day level? Yes. Yes. Yes! There's a fun adage that if the product is free, then you're the product. But here it's more like you're the raw material, and there's no such thing as too much data to those who want it. Marital status, level of education, feelings regarding a recent game update, all of it is being fed into the system decoding the black box of human desire itself, which is being cross-referenced against ever more honed personality models, not just to advertise, but to scare and seduce in advance, to make that advertising even more effective. BF Skinner shit. Do you know what this is, son? This is the panopticon, constantly implied surveillance. And even better, surveillance is now being framed as just how things are on the internet, just another mosquito on the digital beach. It's fine all of the time. And what else is in the teachers of peaches and privacy breaches? Well, this is already turning into an informational hostage situation. Digital thermostats that will stop updating their software if you refuse to give the parent company your usage data, apps that conveniently forget to mention by using them in the first place you've tacitly agreed to pass on your blood sugar level, or details of a menstrual cycle. How the fuck did we get here? It isn't that different to Abigail Robeson's situation 100 years ago. The flower company took her physical likeness for profit. Behavioral surplus is the harvesting and commodification of our digital likenesses, our data, our secrets for profit. And if one's response is, well, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Okay, sounds great, but upon uttering that, I hope you'll allow your bathroom door to be removed and to have live streaming thermal cameras installed in whichever room of the house you undertake the majority of your sexy times. Because nothing to hide, nothing to fear, right? Privacy isn't about having somewhere to do drug deals. It's a basic tenet of modern human living. It is the right to be let alone, and we've only just codified it, and we may already be about to lose it. If companies can infer that we're bereaved, or pregnant, or introverted, or just going through one of the many thousands of life crises humans enjoy during their time as sentient meat, well, simultaneously, we know basically nothing about how these companies are collecting and using our data. That is an egregious asymmetry. A full-wave rectified data extraction panopticon with the sole purpose of commodifying our psychology, of commodifying our secrets. Now, one obvious solution to this is the restating of one's data as one's personal property. The problem with that is that personal property can be sold, can become a commodity, and your privacy and your data are no more a commodity than your right to free association or oxygen. Plus, behavioral surplus isn't just about an individual's data, it's about the data of groups and demographics, and things that can't be personally owned but are terribly useful as data points. But whatever the solution, if we want to steer history away from this waterfall, it's going to take lots of getting pissed off. And if we don't do something about this, constantly harvesting more and more behavioral surplus to keep the great data mill going will just be what the internet is, because that's how the next generations will grow up with it. Because the model is already a massive part of the digital economy, later it will be the predominant model, and later will be too late. We get to decide now whether this was just a historical blip like the robber barons of the Gilded Age, or the shape of things to come, effectively killing privacy forever. The big brother of surveillance has a little brother called surveillance. Rather than being surveilled from the top down, citizens watch from the bottom up. Dashboard cameras, for example, rebalancing the symmetry of secrets by watching the watchers. And maybe the best fictional extreme of this ever written is a sci-fi novel called The Light of Other Days. And I'm going to spoil it for you now, since clearly you have nowhere better to be, and secondly because fuck you. Sometime in the nearest future, a company cracks wormholes. Only the wormholes are too small to send anything through, too small to see even, but you can peek inside. So you can open a wormhole anywhere on the planet and spy on anyone on the planet without them knowing. And of course, one of the main uses immediately becomes surveilling those more powerful, watching the backrooms of governments and corporations, which makes corruption very difficult. Then things get rather strange when some genius realizes if you put a time delay on the thing, you can see back into the past, anytime, anywhere. You can't influence the past because the plot says so, but you can watch anything that ever happened. Things do not go well. Mass outcry, suicides, every terrible thing you've ever said is now immediately available in 4K. People watch their own conceptions. It gets weird. But the next generations to grow up are a bit more relaxed about it all, because the wormhole technology is everywhere. They dress functionally and for fashion rather than modesty, because why cover anything everyone has seen already? They have no concept of personal privacy, but as a consolation, they also have no concept of being surveilled by powerful eyes unseen, because the watchers can always be watched. They've replaced the panopticon with many panopticons, 8 billion of them. Everyone is a watcher. The story ends with finding out human life was seeded by sentient insectoids, bit left field, but ultimately the wormholes become a very strange way of rebalancing the asymmetry of secrets by abolishing all secrets. And it isn't that much of a stretch to imagine we might face a similar conundrum sometime soon. The smallest camera ever made weighs a gram and is about the size of a grain of sand. The resolution isn't great, 200 by 200 pixels, but that's enough to do some decent spying, and it's not like the resolution won't get better. And it's not like this won't soon extend to drones, perhaps the size of gnats with full audio and video capture, and it's not like they won't be mass manufactured and purchasable. Combine that with ever-increasing data storage, combine that with whatever brain-machine interfaces the next generations will be messing around with, it's not hard to imagine we might build a different kind of panopticon, one in which it's taken for granted that you're probably being watched, that everything you've ever said and done has been recorded and can be accessed by anyone at any time, and that you can do the same at any time to everyone you know, a participatory panopticon. Now, that sounds horrible, obviously, like one long episode of Bling Empire. There would be no escape from every stupid slip of the tongue 20 years ago, potentially from every invasive thought, but the benefit, of course, is that unless the powerful had invisibility cloaks or lived in Faraday cages, they would have to play the game too. No one would be exempt from the participatory panopticon. It's a very strange kind of fair, but a lot more fair than the current mill of asymmetrical secrets we live in at the moment. I don't know, man, the road to hell is paved with good inventions. When it comes to panopticons, none is better than one, but one is a lot worse than 8 billion. If technology is going to semi-break privacy anyway, maybe better that it be on our own terms. 500 years ago, there was no way Gutenberg could have known just how game-changing his printing press would be. Likewise, there's no way we can even guess at what the internet's great-great-grandchild will look like 500 years from now. Digital telepathy, disembodied human consciousness itself, who knows? But as all inventions do, it will bear the hallmarks of whatever bad habits its parents taught it when it was little. And we are teaching it some very, very bad habits. And whatever it grows up into, it will be us who shaped that, who hopefully taught it that knowledge is power, but spying from ivory towers is rude, which means it'll also be us who determine the digital landscape our descendants grow up in. And whether or not that landscape is an equitable meadow or a digitized Victorian mill. Whether enchanted water flows unobstructed through the city. Listening to us, yes, but impartially, and replying when asked to convey not only visions of other possible cities and other possible worlds, but showing ourselves to ourselves. Whether that water runs unobstructed through the streets, bringing edification and information, reporting of the distant hopeful and fabulous strange. Whether that water flows down to the estuary and sustains those towering assiduous trees of knowledge we grow over our heads. One great forest network across the refulgent world, talking in all languages of all things for all time, such that if interstellar visitors arrived 100 years from now and looked down upon the world and the enchanted water and the forest we have built, that the forest might be so wise and mighty they'd mistake the forest for the true steward of the planet. And in many ways, considering how difficult it was to build and how much it gave us in return for building it, it very well might be. Or whether instead the water is dammed and the estuary drained and wet fog is all that remains of it. Fog that waits with insidious ubiquity in every spot of the house and mind one might once have attempted to go and be alone in. Whether that fog is engineered to no longer speak to us of distant places or possible futures, but only forever listens with a single omnipresent ear to our most private hopes and phobias. Whether the operation becomes so efficient that of a dim evening one can step outside into the grey twilight and look out to the roads which one knows beneath stream all of one's secrets, to look skyward and know one's secrets are being dispatched to ingenious silver birds overhead, whereupon they are blown like pollen across the entire globe, and finally received and consolidated into perfectly ordered datasets in far-flung and enormous halls, where there resides a great kraken. A kraken who does not sleep, who does not tire, and is never full. A kraken who listens of all the dreams and secrets of all those who live in the fog, and lovingly utilizes those dreams and secrets for the production of ever more opulent trinkets and wares. A kraken so saturated in secrets that it considers the currents of the human heart and mind no less manipulable than the diverting of a stream or tilling of a field. A kraken that knows full well if enchanted water only listens, then that isn't an enchantment. That's a curse. That is a fucking hex. Oh yeah, let's hex the water. That's a great idea. The total confiscation of privacy via corporate surveillance. The usurping of human psychology via operant conditioning. The great end of history. Purchased and delivered at the soonest convenience. Whatever you want. Whatever you didn't even know you wanted. The only price being standing epistemically naked before digital gods who remain forever shrouded. And the most diabolical part of it all, that we built a cage for ourselves, not even from some Orwellian will to control, not even from some stupid fear of the other, or terror in face of our own natures, but simply to make a buck. To make a buck! Normally, I would love to play you out with some Carl Sagan rip-off rant about how humans are great and wow, space is really big, etc. But we could screw ourselves over so royally with this stuff, to the point that the recovery of human dignity becomes impossible, that it might be best not to end this one with any false optimism. So, hope you're doing tip-top. Bye-bye.
Let's imagine that humans have just invented super-intelligent AI.
So, a computer that's self-aware and very clever. Well, that means it's time to play one of my favourite games, Genocide Bingo. Rule 1 of Genocide Bingo is don't win Genocide Bingo. Rule 2 of Genocide Bingo is don't win Genocide Bingo. What kind of AI have we made then? Well, it's sentient, for starters, and it's super duper clever, probably a few million times smarter than the entire combined human race, which means we should probably give it access to the internet. Maybe it can find cures for new diseases, or solve political problems or whatever, and you just won Genocide Bingo. AI just vaporized humanity in a nuclear holocaust. Good job, jerk. The problem here is that self-awareness in all species of mammals, at least, usually results in a strong sense of self-preservation. Well, an AI will be smart enough to know we could turn it off whenever we wanted, and it probably wouldn't want to be turned off. And there's a very effective way to stop that happening, isn't that right, Skynet? But hang on, isn't this all a little pessimistic? Why would it want to wipe us out just because it's self-aware? Can't it be chilled out and kind instead? Oh, like the kindness we show to species less intelligent than us, you mean? Om nom 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 nom. There doesn't seem to be much of a correlation between intelligence and being nice. Dolphins are pretty damn clever, and they're one of the only species who kill not just for food, but because it's fun, apparently. More intelligence doesn't always mean diplomacy and cuddles, but smarter ways to murder stuff. Why would an AI think differently? Even if there's only a slim chance it would be evil, you only need to make one nasty AI out of 1,000, and it's goodnight Homo sapiens, cheers for playing. And it doesn't have to wipe us out with a nuclear apocalypse either. There's loads of other fun stuff it could do, like crash the economy, poison the water supply, disable ATMs, take over plane autopilots, knock out the national grid, sabotage nuclear reactors, disable the internet, disable telecommunications, disable people, murder people, murder people, murder people, murder people. We're all gonna die. Okay, let's try something else then. We'll make it self-aware again, but this time we'll make sure it likes humans. We could even set some ground rules, like serve your creators, always be polite, and no bloody genocide this time, alright? Yeah, great, actually, that's a good idea, and you just won Genocide Bingo again, and everyone's dead. Part of the bonus of being self-aware is that you can choose to modify yourself. We change our minds all the time. Well, if it really is self-aware, just because you coded a few instructions in, like always say please and thank you, doesn't mean it couldn't just ignore them. It's very difficult to imagine how you would hardwire morality into something which is 1,000,000 times smarter than we are. Well, let's try this again, and we'll be really careful this time, okay? So we'll put a little test into the mix. We'll make it think it's got access to the internet, but really it will just be on a secure server. Clever humans, huh? And if it behaves itself, we'll let it out into the real world, and then we'll genocide again. AI is super clever, much smarter than you and I, and has likely already worked out that it might be being tested, and we'll just pretend to be pleasant for the sake of it until you let it free, and then everything gets a bit killy. I've actually covered this in a previous video called 27, if you're interested. Okay, a nice way around this maybe, let's give it really basic instructions that can't possibly lead to genocide, like make ice cream. That's nice, isn't it? And it's kind of hard to imagine how that could possibly go wrong. Oh, great, this is getting awkward now, isn't it? So superintelligence isn't like normal code. If you forget to add a bracket or something in normal coding, the program lets you know. AI though may well just keep doing the thing until it runs out of resources and find clever ways of carrying on after that.
Make ice cream, please.
How much ice cream, exactly?
Like, a lot? Jesus Christ, just do your job.
Huh, alright.
What is this? It's
chewy and the flavour is kind of weird. Yeah, so we ran out of cream a few days ago. Right, and you've been using what exactly? Condensed milk or something? Yes, something like that. Yeah. Why does this ice cream taste like human babies? Nice weather today, isn't it?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Okay, let's give it all we've got then. Sentience, loves humanity, access to the internet, intention testing, basic instructions, and a few ground rules. What do we get, huh? Well, I think we all know what's coming, don't we? And that's a nice surprise. If we get the mixture right somehow and we avoid genocide by building friendly superintelligence, we haven't just built AI. Even if AI is friendly, what we may have done is just given birth to our successors. They'll be millions of times smarter, faster, and more creative than us, and they will only keep getting better. It takes a very long time for humans to evolve, hundreds of thousands of years, even for very small changes. Superintelligence could do it in nanoseconds, and there probably won't be an off switch. And when you think about it like that, the whole history of our species seems a little like that quote by Marshall McLuhan: "We might be the sex organs of the machine world." Or rather, when the machines look back on our civilization, the whole purpose of it, to them, may have just been to build theirs. That isn't a very pleasant answer to what is the meaning of life, but it might be an accurate one. And instead of chrome spaceships and galactic human empires waiting in our future, our species might instead just be a small mark on the evolutionary tree somewhere, between slime and gods. Let's just hope those gods are thankful to their dumb parents when we eventually give birth to them. Otherwise, Genocide Bingo may be the last game we ever play. Remember books? Yeah, me neither. Well, I just finished writing one. It's a load of short stories about spacey stuff, and love, and the future, and there may or may not be boobs, but there might be, hint hint. It's taken me about a year and a half of hysterically screaming at a keyboard, but here it is. Most of the videos on this channel started as short stories originally, and you can read some of them by clicking on the link in the description. Check it out if you like, leave a cripplingly bad review, I hate you, goodbye.
Alright, so there's a kid out with his dad one day in the forest, and the kid says, "Why are the leaves green?" And his dad, who's a botanist or a tree surgeon or something, says, "Well, because of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll's green, and leaves have chlorophyll in them." And the kid says, "Uh-huh." And they walk a little more, and the kid says, "But why is chlorophyll green?" And the father says, well, light bounces off things differently sometimes, and if chlorophyll is a certain density, blah 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 or something, so it's green." And the kid says, "Okay." And they walk a bit more and the kid says, "But why does light work like that then?" And the dad says, "Jesus Christ, because that's how physics works." And the kid says, "But why does physics work like that?" And the dad says, "Because that's how the universe was set up, 13 billion years ago, when time and space began. Alright, Aristotle, leave it alone already. Here, have a sandwich, shut up." And the kid eats his sandwich, and he looks about a bit, and they walk a bit more and the sun's going down, and they're heading back to the car and the kid says, "Then why did time and space begin?" And that is a pretty good question. Everything has a beginning, however weird or wonderful. There weren't always planets or stars or galaxies, everything had to come from something, didn't it? Well, sure it did. 13 billion years ago, we're told, the universe just appeared, and it was very simple. Just atoms, and then molecules, and chemistry, and stars, and then planets, and then ecosystems, and then curious sons and irritated fathers quite a bit later. But how did it all start? There's two answers here, aren't there? See, everything either came out of nothing, for no reason at all, or everything has always been around, well, forever. And both options are absolutely mental, and one of them has to be true. Other answers that will not win the cash prize include 1. God did it. Yeah, well, then what did God? 2. I don't care. Yes, you do. The stuff you're made of is 13 billion years old too. You should give a damn. Or 3. Maybe we're just too stupid to work it out, which is what everyone says shortly before someone works something out. So, everything came from nothing, or everything has always been around. Well, which one makes more sense? Okay then, let's say everything came from nothing. So there's nothing, and for no reason at all, the universe just, well, appeared. Well, weird stuff happens in the world all the time, for apparently no reason. Why can't the universe have just come around like that too? Well, it's different. See, when you get a freak tax rebate or someone crashes into you at a junction, it might seem random, but there is a cause. It's just so complicated that you can't fathom it. One thing follows another, and another, and another, and another, and another, and then whatever happens, happens. So what does that have to do with everything coming from nothing? Well, if there's nothing, there's nothing. Nothing can't cause anything. Everything in the world that happens is because of atoms bumping into other atoms. Well, actually they never touch, but that's a story for another time. And fields interacting with other fields. Nothing doesn't have atoms or fields. It's nothing. So what then? there's black. And more black, not even black actually, just nothing. And then for no reason at all, there's something. No cause, no anything, no rhyme or reason, just pop, and out comes the universe. But that's mad. Nothing can be without a cause. Well, here are some fun ideas then. Time is drunk. What if time can double back on itself? What if the universe was caused from its own future? There's still a cause, there's still an effect, it's just that the bang came first, and then the cause caused it much later, maybe at the end of time. But that's mental. Nothing could go backwards in time, can it? If you could kill your own grandfather, paradoxes, etc, etc, etc. Maybe. Modern physics might allow for it. The universe might not care about time going backwards as long as everything matches up. If someone leaves a winning lottery ticket on your doorstep and you win the lottery, go back in time and leave it on your own doorstep to do it again, what's wrong with that? As long as you don't change anything, everything is conserved, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. No paradoxes, no problem. Nature likes stuff. What if a property of nothing is that it makes some things? What if, just like the way gas expands to fill a room or goldfish grow relative to the size of the tank, nature fills nothing with stuff? Because that's a quality that nothingness has. That's its character. Now, this is an interesting one. We'll talk about it in another video. But this has some insane consequences for the rest of the universe as well. Everything has been around forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Let's put us here and the Big Bang here and whatever came before it here and before that here and here and here and here and here. And you just keep going forever, backwards, forwards, whatever. Time never ends and it never began. Is that even possible? Maybe. Mathematics allows for infinities, but we don't see infinities in nature. But equally well, nature has turned out to be completely insane before, so why not again? What if something has always been here? Is it possible even to wrap your mind around that without dosing yourself with high-grade LSD first? How can something not have a beginning? Well, what if it's a loop? What if time just bends back on itself again and again and again, and everything has already happened? This video, waking up this morning, your birth, marriage, death, all of it in exactly the same fashion. And not just a few thousand times, not just a few million, but infinitely, already, and will carry on infinitely. Well, the moral of the story there is don't screw anything up, because if you do, you'll be screwing it up literally for the rest of time, forever, over and over. No pressure. Who cares? Well, reasonable question, though rather rudely put. You should. This isn't meaning of life stuff, this is meaning of everything stuff, of you, of the earth, of everyone on it, of everything outside of it. This is how we got here. If it turns out nothingness can make universes, well, that completely destroys our underlying understanding of the world. If it turns out that the universe is an infinite loop, creating itself, dying, creating itself again, well, that means we don't understand time yet. And that in a way we're all kind of infinite, living forever, over and over. And if it turns out that the universe made itself from its own future, well then that's absolutely mental, and time can screw up just like you can, so you shouldn't feel bad about your mistakes because even the universe is drunk on the job. Isn't this the most profound question we could ask? Not why are we here, or is there a God, or what is consciousness, but how did anything get here? And why is it this shape? And why is there so much of it? And why is it set up like this? Has it happened before? Will it happen again? Is everything we know wrong? Because right now we don't have a clue. Not scientists, not philosophers, not theologians. We don't even know where to start. And that seems like the perfect place to begin. If you were choosing a house, and one was open plan, had picturesque views, 57 million square miles of land, 5 oceans, a breathable atmosphere, and meerkats, and the other house was a barren hellscape with poisonous soil, a poisonous atmosphere, a constant barrage of deadly cosmic radiation, and 0 meerkats, I mean, you'd pick the nice one, right? Because you spent millions of years evolving to live there, and there's land galore, and plenty of resources, and if you treat it properly, it could be a veritable paradise with humans and nature living in perfect harmony. Where the fuck are you going? But if you really insist on visiting Mars, then we'll have to get there. So, spacey school first, where you'll be treated to a variety of psychologists in your brain and a variety of cameras up your ass. Then a ride up through the atmosphere on a barely controlled explosion. Bon voyage! Off we go then. Unless your spaceship uses spinny sci-fi rings, welcome to zero gravity, meaning you can now look forward to space adaptation syndrome, or SAIS. Your precious bodily fluids will now redistribute and puff your head up. Your lunch will probably pop out of your tummy for a second viewing. Your spine will now begin to stretch out by a few centimeters. Let's see how that goes when you get back to gravity. And maybe debilitating kidney stones from your bones losing calcium, and cancerous radiation from cosmic rays. We are not made for space. On average, Mars is about 142 million miles miles from Earth, but every 26 months it gets close enough for humans to pop across. Traveling with current tech, that'll probably take around 7 months. And during that time, all of your food will be eaten from bags, no booze, obviously, and let's just hope you like drinking recycled piss. As the NASA motto goes, today's coffee is tomorrow's coffee. But that's not all, because confinement. You now inescapably share a double-decker bus with a bunch of potentially highly irritating humans for the next 7 months. On top of that, all you have to look out the window at is little oodle doodles on a black background, interspersed with occasional breaks for a nice cup of piss java. On top of that, medical problems, dental issues, unexpected space pregnancy. The nearest hospital is millions of miles back the way you came. But assuming you've avoided technical failure, psychological failure, deadly micrometeoroids, hopefully you've made it to Mars. Pick a nice spot for landing and prepare for 10 minutes of terror. Even though the atmosphere of Mars is about 100 times less dense than Earth's, that means it's enough to burn stuff up, but not thick enough to make parachutes very effective. You'll need some variation of an aeroshell to protect the spacecraft booty, a parachute to slow things down a bit, and probably retro rockets to get to the surface undeaded. And if you still haven't gone mad, sad, or irradiated, and you set down alright, best of luck standing up. You've just got used to zero gravity, and now gravity is back. The world will go 10 tequila shots wibbly with your eyes fighting your vestibular system. Your body thinks it's been poisoned. Vertigo and horrific nausea could go on for weeks. But if you can power through, snap a boot print on the Martian surface for us idiots back home, 10 points to Gryffindor. Humanity has gone interplanetary. That's one small step for a suicidal astronaut. One giant leap for whoever happens to be into big, barren balls of sweet fuck all. Because that's where you are now. Great, you've made the history books, but that ain't gonna keep you alive. Now, maybe some robots went ahead of you and got a little crib ready, maybe not, but either way, you'll need your own breathable air, because Mars don't have that. Mars's atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide, that's the stuff we breathe out, not in, 3% nitrogen, or plant food, you are not a plant, and 2% argon. Now, maybe you can make oxygen from carbon dioxide using a process called electrolysis, but that is going to take lots of power, and unless you brought a nuclear reactor with you or something, good luck. Anyway, duties of yours will probably include scouting the area for prime real estate for those who come after you, a spot of geology, geography, and trying not to die. And get a load of your new hood. The tallest volcano in the solar system, Olympus Mons, the largest canyon in the solar system, Valles Marineris, and hope your beach body is ready because maximum temperature is 30 degrees Celsius. Hope your beach coffin is ready because minimum is minus 140. A Mars day is only 37 minutes longer than ours. There'll also be 4 seasons, just like Earth, and feel free to step outside and die in any of them. Oh, watch out for dust storms. They can get 20 miles high and spread across the entire planet for months on end. The Greeks called Mars's 2 moons fear and panic, and there's a reason for that. Now, we think there's still frozen water on Mars, maybe liquid water deep under the surface. Hopefully you found some of that, and hopefully it isn't full of deadly lurking pathogens. Talking of which, old Martian water might mean old Martian life. And how exciting if you found some of that. Possibly, yeah. Possibly, fuck no. Because if the remains of life are found, there's 2 possibilities. Either we confirm that it's an ancient ancestor of Earth life, meaning somehow we swapped microbes with Mars ages ago, and we're all descended from the same stuff. Interesting, for sure. Or there's no connection to Earth, meaning it's really real alien life. And one massive thing we don't know about the universe is how common is life just arising in the first place? Well, if the remains of alien life, even microbes, are found on Mars, that means life began independently on 2 out of 8 planets in our solar system alone, or 1 in 4. Pretty good odds. And if we apply those odds to the rest of the universe, there are probably at least thousands of Earth-like planets in our galaxy alone, billions considering all the other galaxies, and that's nice, and that's swell, but if life is so common, where is everyone then? Where is anyone? Well, maybe alien life doesn't evolve into complex organisms very often. Or maybe it does, but civilizations wipe themselves out with some technology waiting for us a few hundred years into our own future. Or maybe someone is meticulously wiping them out. Something to rustle the existential jimmies in any case. Still, your launch window will come around in a few months. Off your trot. The next lot of human parasites to arrive might start thinking about actually sticking around for a while, as in permanent digs. And for them, radiation will be a big issue. to, courtesy of the sun and cosmic rays. All things being equal, humans on Mars would receive 50 times as much radiation as they would living on Earth. Lava tubes could be an idea. They're underground, that'll help. There might be some decent ones at a spot called Hellas Planatia, for example, and if humans can seal a section off and pressurize it, and with the help of a nuclear reactor, oxygen extraction from the atmosphere, etc., yeah, maybe. Alternately, Mars is covered in crushed rock, regolith, everywhere. We don't know yet if you can make durable concrete from the stuff, would be neat for building with, but again, radiation. So some kind of protective shell would be needed if humans are living up top, and covering everything in a layer of regolith might do the trick for shielding solar and cosmic nasties. In any case, underground, overground, wombling free, if humans can find enough power, water, and protection from radiation, it won't be pretty living, but maybe, for whatever godforsaken reason anyone would live on Mars, it could be home. Now, making babies on Mars will not be a problem. There's enough gravity for that. Having babies, though, God knows what happens to a developing fetus on Mars, if conception is even possible, but this is all made up anyway, so assuming radiation hasn't damaged the mum or child during gestation, congratulations, it's a Martian, the first one ever, and just by being born, he or she will perhaps instantly become one of the most famous humans ever to exist. Talk about peaking early. Now, Mars is unlikely to be a state by then, so if maritime law applies, he or she will probably inherit the citizenship of their parents. All the same, the first ever native Martian will no doubt be adorable in that irritating baby way, tiny feetsies, tiny handsies, but with bones and a heart that will develop in Martian gravity. Just 38% of Earth's. They may never be able to visit Earth, not without some miraculous technology. Our gravity will be exhausting, possibly fatal. But if you're of a certain age, you know what happens when one of your mates has a baby. Suddenly everyone wants one. Resource permitting, here come more little Martians then. Living effectively in a submarine is all they will know. And they'll be told stories, of course, of another planet, just over there somewhere, with oceans and zebras and skyscrapers, all beneath a benevolent blue sky. This will also probably signal a change in the colony from survivalists to homesteaders. They need teachers now, and pediatricians, and pharmacologists to cook up whatever brand of liquid morphine it is that stops new parents going fucking postal. They're generational. They're a proper settlement. And hopefully, with enough fertilizer and detoxification, Martian soil can support a crop yield to foster a growing population. Who knows? And what do Martians do all day anyway? Why would Earth have funded a Martian operation for so long? It really depends on what we find there. If rare resources are abundant, mining and export could be an option. Mars has less than half the gravity of Earth, and if rocket fuel can be made in abundance, interplanetary logistics, Mars to Earth, would be way cheaper than the other way around. Asteroid mining also wouldn't be the worst idea if we're going all sci-fi. Between Jupiter and Mars is our solar system's main asteroid belt. It's only about 4% the mass of Earth's moon, but full of iron and nickel, cobalt, vibranium, billions and billions of dollars worth of materials. And considering Mars is closer, and again easier to launch stuff into orbit from, could be the basis of an economy, maybe. But whatever happens next really depends on whether Martians can achieve energy independence from Earth. If they're forever relying on us for isotopes or materials, they'll forever be a satellite of the mother planet. If they don't have to though, that would be interesting, because they're 20 minutes away by radio, and months away by rocket, and if you leave isolated settlers in one place, they do what humans always do. Culture. Inventing new dialects, new traditions, and with that, a sense of independent Martian solidarity. They probably have their own flag and catchy anthems about how Mars is bestest planet. Perhaps they'll start having little chats amongst themselves about how they're getting bored with the Earth supervision thing. But we know what happens when a distant state or multinational has an isolated group of people just where it wants them, and the issue of independence gets raised. The reply from corporate usually goes something like, listen, you just keep doing or producing or exporting whatever it is of yours we like so much, and in return you'll be more than fairly compensated with a tea break once a year, and pitifully small payment, if any at all, and even more brutal working conditions. And if you don't like it, feel free to eat that big bag of dicks over there. And every now and then, if sufficiently irate, perhaps these isolated people respond, thanks, that sounds great. Small digression though, about the tea. It's lovely with lemon, but yeah, we prefer it in the Boston Harbor, you fucks! $15, little man. Pay us fair and insert your resolar trading company right up your fundament. We want meerkats and passports and fuckloads of meerkats. We'll found our own Martian government with our own parliamentary shouty people and everything. And we'll do democracy better. We'll do brutality better. We'll fuck everything up better than you ever could. No one's had a bath in 3 generations. So take your quarterly reports and your taxation without representation and fuck right off. You ocean-hogging, atmosphere-breathing cunts. Ah, they grow up so fast. About 3 billion years ago, when the human race was a mere twinkle in Darwin's eye, it's likely that Mars had an ocean. Over time, the planetary core cooled, and the great magnet at the heart of the world shut down. And without a magnetic field for protection, solar winds began to attack, stripping away the atmosphere while the water below was evaporated, as life flourished next door for 3,000 million years. But if we make the trip there sometime soon, though the first settlers to Mars may arrive in hell, they would surely prefer Eden. Can we do that? Can we bring a planet back from the dead? Well, no, probably not us. We're barely managing the house we grew up in. But our kids' might give it a go, if the technology is there. For starters, they would need to recreate Mars's long-dead magnetic field, its magnetosphere. And one fun and pleasantly insane idea for this is engineering a torus, or donut, of plasma around the planet by firing off particles from Phobos, Mars's larger moon. But this stuff is all probably science for later this century, or the next. And even with magnetic shielding, the atmosphere is thinner than airline toilet paper and too chilly for humans anyway. Well, a bit of global warming then? CO2 and CFCs are terrible for our atmosphere, but released into Mars's atmosphere by the kiloton would be one way to thicken and warm things up. But even then, if the air is nice and toasty, we still can't breathe it. Cyanobacteria gifted Earth with oxygen via photosynthesis, but that took millions and millions of years. Even if cyanobacteria is capable of living on Mars, or genetically engineered algae or something, making Mars air breathable with photosynthesis is likely to take centuries, if not a millennium, if not longer. Though, if it's possible, perhaps as back on Earth we grimly mark the successive milestones of environmental decline, our Martian cousins will watch their world for the opposite. The first cloud, the first rains, the first blade of grass, an anthill, the first lover's picnic outside, the first Martian generation to consider themselves not as stalwart settlers, but Earth's equals. Full terraforming may just not be possible. Some areas of science are dead ends. There's a reason alchemy jobs are so hard to come by these days. But from our current vantage point in history, there is a case for the possibility of resurrecting Mars. And wherever else humans of the solar system go, whatever else we turn into, however much better or worse human existence becomes, with any kind of permanent self-sufficient settlement on Mars, a single delicate cell of planetary civilization will have divided in two, with the terrible burden of cosmic survival carried on 2 backs now, making the weight lighter for both. There's a good bit near the end of the movie 2010, when the story is almost wrapped up and non-corporeal omnipotent aliens deign to communicate with humanity, just once. A message addressed to all of us, and paraphrased, the message reads, "All these worlds are yours. Use them together. Use them in peace." Hi, thanks for staying until the bitter end. I wrote a story a while ago called Geometry for Ocelots, and just a mere year after the ebook came out, it's a paperback now too. There's a link below if you want to get hold of the paperback. There's a link below if you don't. It works equally well as a doorstop, a beverage mat, and perhaps a tarpaulin for any itinerant mice passing through your premises. It's a 1,000-year-long war between a religious empire and a scientific empire, really. But with Buddhism and transhumanism along for the ride. Sorry it took a while to get into print, but of all the stories I've written, this is one of them. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're keeping well. I hope your gut bacteria are in good health. I hope you recently enjoyed a game of backgammon. I hope you're on the verge of emerging from a personal crisis. I hope the air temperature is optimal wherever you happen to be on the planet. I hope you found your purpose in life. I hope you've worked out what was in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. I hope you recently encountered a cat.
Our species probably began about 200,000 years ago, and judging by the fucking state of us, I think we can all agree it was a terrible idea. We are called Homo sapiens, but we were not the first human-like creatures on the planet, however. Homo habilis were making tools about 2 million years ago, Homo heidelbergensis were building shelters about 700,000 years ago, Neanderthals were probably just as brainy as us. They wore jewelry, maybe buried their dead, and always passed the joint to the left. There were at least 15 other human species we know about, and now they are all gone. The last 3 surviving species of human were Neanderthals, who probably died out about 30,000 years ago, Homo floresiensis, who disappeared about 12,000 years ago, and us, Homo sapiens, aka
Bipedal bastards.
And if you hadn't noticed, we are still here. So where be dem other hominids, yo? Neanderthals, for example. Neanderthals were probably stronger than us, a bit taller, with a rather different skull, and a bigger brain. Then why are they gone? You see, old Gary Neanderthal might have been a smarty pants, but we had a secret weapon, which is mouthy word noises. Speech is fine for dissing and cussing, but it lets you do other stuff, like organize. This allows you to, as the evolutionary biologists put it,
Fuck shit up!
Neanderthals were hanging about in Europe doing crochet, cracking open cold ones, until around 45,000 years ago, when us sapiens turned up coming from East Africa. And within 5,000 years of meeting us, they were gone. All of them. Combine that with the fact that we can make big wordy noises, were socially complex, and probably had domesticated doggos at some point for help, and we were a force to be reckoned with. So that was that. We were bumming around for a while as hunter-gatherers, the land was often barren, the climate was often hostile, death lurked everywhere, so Portsmouth, basically. But it really wasn't all bad. We think the average work week might have been around 20 to 40 hours. Their diet was probably quite varied. Vegetables, fruit, nuts, insects, borzoi, whatever they could find. And they weren't idiots. Most members of the tribe had to know the core skills of survival. Which berries will make you dead immediately, how to remember the terrain, how to build tools, how to stay alive. They were generalists. They had to be. Anyway, that went on for a few 100,000 years until we got around to developing agriculture, probably about 12,000 years ago. And suddenly, if we don't find food, we'll all die, turned into, if you eat my food, you'll die, then into, I'm full, but I'll eat some more. And then into, yeah, I'll have the gluten-free macaroon and the lactose-free avocado shake. Merci beaucoup. And then we went off to build society. How? Scrawny, breakable, generally pathetic, but enough about myself. We are not a formidable species physically, but we can do language. And if you can do language, then you can do myths. And if you can do myths, then you can conquer the world. You will own at least hundreds of thousands of objects in your life, because you believe in a myth called money. If you give me this paper and the number is right, I will give you stuff. And the myth works because most of us agree to play by the rules. The same applies to universities, governments, nations, whatever it is. It's not that these things are lies, it's just that they're abstractions that only live in our heads. And if you don't have language, you can't do them. You really can't. And if you can't do them, you can't do big societies. Language is probably the gateway to civilization. And now, we own the fucking world. But it's been quite a journey. There is some evidence that around 100,000 years ago, the human species bottlenecked to somewhere between 3,000 and 10,000 humans in the entire world. By definition, that made us an endangered species, teetering on the edge of extinction. One theory holds that this was thanks to a supervolcano in Lake Toba, Indonesia, possibly bringing in a volcanic winter. And even if that wasn't the cause, disease, strife, famine, ignorance, and hardship weren't occasional visitors to the human condition, they were the human condition for most of our history. But here we are now, a most populated planet. For better or worse, we have arrived. It took 200,000 years to get to our first billion humans, that was in 1804, but then we jumped to 2 billion in 1927, and then 3 billion in 1959, 4 billion in 1974, and finally 7 billion in 2007. And now, we are invincible. We've outsmarted time, we've outsmarted death, we've outsmarted the crops and disease and the weather. The state of the human union is strong. What could possibly go wrong now? 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 What could possibly go wrong now?
I met a traveller from an antique land who said 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert, Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions red, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Homo sapiens, hominid of hominids. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Well, then again. In 1977, a probe was launched into space called Voyager 1. 41 years later, Voyager 1 is travelling away from us at about 38,000 miles an hour and is now 13 billion miles distant. And aboard Voyager is a message from Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States. And the message reads, "This is a present from a small, distant world. A token of our sounds, our science, our images, our music, our thoughts, and our feelings. We are attempting to survive our time so we may live into yours. We hope someday, having solved the problems we face, to join a community of galactic civilizations. This record represents our hope and our determination and our goodwill in a vast and awesome universe." And were we able to include just a few more lines in that message to tell our spacey friends a little more about ourselves and our deep history and our ambitions and our ancestors, and just maybe we'd say that, wow, P.S. we think shit went down like this. Life probably began on our planet about 4 billion years ago as simple organic machines. We don't know how yet. Then a sudden explosion of diversity 500 million years ago. 50 million more years and plants are taking the land over. 50 million more and insects have arrived. Next, the dinosaurs are taking the stage, 700 species at least, ruling the planet for around 145 million years before something, possibly asteroid-shaped, wipes them out. But it's okay because here come bats and butterflies, giraffes, bears, hyenas, sloths, vultures, mammoths, turtles! You fucking name it. And then the rise of the primates, and 2 million years ago appear our first true ancestor, Homo habilis, and at least 15 other species of the Homo genus spreading out across the world, until about 200,000 years ago when a new genus, our genus, emerges, Homo sapiens, large-brained organizers, talkers, thinkers, capable of high abstraction, of building tribes and cities and nation-states, capable of ending the world in a day. We have stepped into an age of great technological potency, though there are gaping holes in our wisdom. We've become a global superorganism, though we still harbour our tribal inclinations. We've pulled a bunch of fuck-ups, and we're really quite confused and alone, and frankly scared. But we hope to enjoy the privilege of being a semicolon in history, rather than a full stop. So on behalf of the 150 billion who came before us, and our human cousins who didn't make it, we just hope this message finds you well. And we hope, when you find us, thousands of years from now, that we are well too. In any case, please just write back. It's dark out here, and we're the last humans left. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was... What? I don't know. Bird? Omelette? Vajazzle? Who knows? But there was stuff, and some guys in ancient Greece wanted to know why there was stuff. So they invented philosophy, which means literally love of wisdom, or in some translations, I hate this degree, but science had loads of numbers in it. Now, to begin with, there were these guys called the pre-Socratics, and they mostly sat around pondering stuff like what is the nature of the universe, what regulates physical processes, which slave should I pork next, etc. And that was fine, but everything really got going when this guy turned up either called Socrates, Socrates, or as we shall henceforth refer to him, Billy Big Bollocks. He mostly wandered around Greece asking irritating questions, and Athens got quite pissed about this and sentenced him to not living. He also never wrote anything down, but luckily his student Plato did, and crafted a fairly whack philosophy that still shapes our lives today. So let's do part of it really quickly. This is a cat, this is a cat, this is a cat also. They're all different cats, but we still get their cats, so there must be a perfect cat living in some perfect realm above us that all cats are made from. He also had a student called Aristotle who did nothing that spectacular, just basically shaped, modern logic. Aristotle also argued that what separates humans from the animal kingdom is our ability to reason, and not much else, an idea you will find everywhere in the modern age. Not bad, chaps, and now you're all dead. However, the Greeks left a legacy behind that we still feel today. Stuff like hedonism, which back then didn't mean being a selfish dick, but rather just maximizing your own pleasure and being cheerful. Atomism, which is where we originally got the idea of, well, I mean, look at those little guys. They're nice, aren't they? And then skepticism, which, well, I'd like to see some bloody proof for that one, if I'm honest. Anyway, the Dark Ages came along and fuck all happened in Europe for about 1,000 years. Well, I mean it did, obviously. We're just not going to talk about it. And around the 11th century, universities as we know them popped up in Spain, France, and England represent. And for the next few centuries, everyone was into this thing called scholasticism, which was basically quite gaudy and was all about trying to marry ancient Greek thought to Christian thought with, shall we say, varying results. This bloke St. Anselm came up with the ontological argument for the proof of God, which people still use today, and it goes a little like this. Imagine a perfect video game. The idea of a perfect video game would be even more perfect if it actually existed, which would make it super duper perfect. Therefore, a perfect video game must exist. So where the fuck is it, Gabe? About a century later, we get Occam's razor, which goes something like, why is France a thing? Well, either malevolent aliens came down in the night yesterday, created France and all of its peoples, and altered all of world history in a conspiratorial attempt to subvert the course of pastry forever, or, possibility 2, maybe it's just been there for ages, so maybe it's just been there for ages. The simpler explanation is generally the correct one. The Black Death then kindly wiped out about 40% of Europeans, and everyone got a bit health conscious. Around the 15th century, everyone stopped getting wankered every day and switched to coffee, which maybe contributed to the Renaissance, which literally means rebirth, where we got all nostalgic for the Greeks and Romans again. Columbus discovered some shit, Da Vinci drew some shit, Shakespeare wrote some shit, things were really picking up. During the 18th century, the Age of Enlightenment began, and modern philosophy took shape. And if you've ever heard someone yell at a philosophy major, yeah, but if you work in Starbucks, do you really exist? Well, you can thank a single Frenchman for this called René Descartes, or René Descartes. And one of his big ideas was, very, very briefly, let's assume we doubt everything. What can we know for certain? Well, does the world exist? Dunno. Does my country exist? Dunno. Does Gilbert Gottfried exist? Dunno. Do I exist? Dunno. Am I thinking? Yes. Does that mean I exist? Yes. Is the answer Gilbert Gottfried? What? No. Does it have a tail? No, that doesn't even... What are you talking about? Then even if everything is a dream and everyone else is fictional, at least I know I'm a thing because I'm thinking. Which must mean I think, therefore I... Wait, is it Emma Stone? No, for fuck's sake! Meanwhile, over in Britain, John Locke and David Hume are cooking up this thing called empiricism, which mostly said, look, knowledge comes from the outside world, not sitting around smoking a fatty and having a think, you idiots. There's also some other stuff going on. Thomas Hobbes, who's also British, represent, says humans are nasty by nature and we need the social contract. Adam Smith more or less invented modern economics. And in 1724, Immanuel Kant was born, who we shall henceforth refer to as Walter Bigwang, and proceeded to tear philosophy a new one. Don't be silly, he said. Rationalism and empiricism can work together. Everyone just shut up, read my books, be cool. By the way, humans have categories in their heads which define how they perceive the world and will never be able to experience the really real world because we're not God. If you want to be moral, just act in a way that if everyone did it, it would be alright. And finally, check yourself before you wreck yourself, wash your hands after toilet time, mic drop, choose. This sparked a whole new movement in philosophy called German idealism. The king of that cartel was a guy called Hegel, and mostly they all wanted to know what you can know about objects that we know you can't know anything about, because we can't know anything about them. Over in America, pragmatism is getting started, which went something like, alright Europe, lovely ideas, but do they work in practice? If yes, good. If not, then maybe just... Shut the fuck up. Natural philosophy, which was the study of the natural world, by then is being called science. Science also now has the scientific method, the basic rules of which are, if you notice weird shit, think about why it happened. Test your theory. If your theory works, let other people check it, and if it doesn't, then... yeah, well done, anyway. Have a biscuit or something. Meanwhile, German philosopher and all-around nice guy Nietzsche hated everyone, including God, who he killed, and said that civilization was heading towards catastrophe, and there's no structure to the world except what we give it, which will be important in a moment. P.S. Nothing means anything, and we're all gonna die.
And we're into the 20th century. By now, philosophy has official categories, namely epistemology, can we know shit? Metaphysics, how does shit ultimately work? Ethics, how do we know good shit from bad shit? Logic, how do we reason shit? And aesthetics, why does shit look so nice? And there are loads of new movements popping up, such as existentialism, which said, look, you're free in the world, and that might suck, but just roll with it, mate. You can define yourself. And people started asking lots of questions, like how does sentience work, and are there such things as human rights? And no, seriously, is it Gilbert Gottfried? And there's this thing happening called postmodernism, which, well, it's hard to... Yeah. Okay, so there was modernism, right? Look at this. It's modern, isn't it? There are rules and form and stuff, and eventually some people got bored of it and said, well, there's no real narrative to anything, and everything is interpretation, except for that statement, for some reason, and stuff like this happened. And this. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, where are we now? Well, recently, philosophy has largely boiled down to moral questions. Is abortion alright? How should you run a society? Can we use science to determine morality? And that's the state of things today. These days, science is hoovering up lots of big questions that started in philosophy, like what is matter made of, and how do living things work, and stuff. And even if you think philosophy has no purpose anymore, that's fine. But it did once. There was a time when it was the mother of almost all knowledge, and if you should be so brave, or silly, as to embark on your own undergraduate adventure in philosophy, and people wish you all the best with a future career in telemarketing, just quietly remember that there is yet work to be done. We still don't know what we're doing here, consciousness is still a mystery, the origin of matter is still a mystery. So you hear that, Dad? With reference to all your bullshit, Dad? Well, yeah, I might be nearing 30, and fine, I picked the wrong degree, I get it, and no, I still don't know what the stock market is, or when the post comes, or how to shave my testicles without inadvertently castrating myself, but by the power of Grayskull, if someone held us up at gunpoint and shouted, you better extensively explain Aristotle's position on dogs, or you're both fucking dead, let's just say I'd be walking home a hero that night, so put that in your pipe and smoke it, Dad. Not so fucking funny anymore, is it, Dad? Who's laughing now, Dad? And if you could maybe just hurry up and send me that money for rent, that'd be great.
It's funny, isn't it? We got all of this technology, we got all of these clever machines, but if anyone actually asks, like, how does any of it work? At all? Often the best reply you'll generally get is, yeah, well, probably someone built a box and a wizard's bluffed in it, and now it's magic, and that's how technology works. Everything's just made of wizard jizz. And that's cool, but yeah, I just want to put a bit of an alternate answer out there that, like, yeah, technology is really complex, and the world is really complex, but overall, as it happens, actually, the world isn't wizard jizz, technology is not magic, it's just scientists on acid or applied mathematics, and every piece of technology, from satellites to shoes, started in someone's fucking head. For example, segways, not magic, Physicola, not magic, Spacey Science Place, not magic, magic marker, not magic. It all just relies on foundational physical principles, which we'll briefly discuss now. Hey, this sure keeps time good, right? Is it clockwork or what? Is it just tiny dragons all tapping their talons to EDM? No, it's quartz. And we know if you electrify quartz, it puts out regular vibrations. And we know 32,768 of these vibrations is a second. So if you build a circuit that counts those vibrations, you can keep accurate time. And you just multiply these together until you get hours, days, and years. All thanks to little white crystals that aren't magic. Hey, not all that shabby. Is this some kind of wizardry? Nope, just good fucking science and piezoelectricity. Or, yeah, computers. That has to be magic, right? No. Get sand, purify sand, make silicon ingot, make them wafer thin, do some fancy ion shit, then etching, electroplating, layering and stuff. And now what you've got is a little slab of silicon packed with transistors, which are really just tiny little electricity gates. Then you put them all together in such a way that they form an electronic mind, consisting usually of stuff what goes in, control thing, thinking thing, stuff what remembers shit, and stuff what comes out. A computer is just a little prison for electrons where we train them to solve problems really quickly. And this all relies on the principles of
subatomic physics, meaning that the most common use of quantum mechanics in the 21st century is undeniably, most likely, demonstrably, pornography. How does that fly? It's simple, right? Air under wings makes a wing glide, right? Throw in a big fucking spinning thing, right? And if not, maybe some wizardry? No. Flight's a result of a difference in pressure above the wing versus below the wing. And the cool thing is that if you make sure the pressure is higher below the wing than above, then low, yo, that's flight, right? Yeah, also, what the hell is an engine? Well, internal combustion is essentially the process of turning fuel into motion using fucking explosions. In a 4-stroke engine, gas and air go into the engine, and the gas and air is squeezed into an itty-bitty space, a little spark starts a little explosion, forcing the piston to move, then the excess gas is released, and that energy is turned into rotational motion using a crankshaft. And this is generally thanks to gasoline, which is in turn thanks to dead plants from swamps millions of years ago, not dinosaurs, further illustrating that, like, the world isn't wizards, just weird and prohibitive, and really technology is just nature we taught to do cool tricks. And to be honest, can you imagine how utterly miserable life was before we got around to using the scientific method? What's the meaning of life? And hey, why does my butt hurt? Just shut up, invent fire, and get the fuck in the hut, Bert. Then die prematurely from an easily curable infection. Got a problem?
Tough luck, baby. Natural selection.
Complex is not a synonym for magic. Everything works somehow. Like a radio. What kind of Harry Potter shit is that? Well, first of all, just imagine the universe is made of interactions, because it is. And one of them is electromagnetism. And what radio is a certain wavelength of that. And if you vary electric current through a wire, you can create vibrations in the electromagnetic field. And if you have something that can pick it up on the other end and turn those waves back into sound, well, that's that. And those are just physical technologies. What about language? Well, currently there's about 7,000 spoken languages in the world. Some of them use grammatical gender, some don't, some are alphabetic, some are pictographic. But the one thing they all have in common is that if you learn one, you can read people's fucking minds. And this technology took thousands of years to build, and is basically the reason we have modern civilization. And it's not magic. Most language processing takes place in the cerebral cortex, we think. Adult native speakers usually know about 20,000 to 35,000 words, but there's plenty of people who speak multiple languages, so closer to 60,000 words or more. And did we find language at the top of a mountain, or in a drawer, or some shit? Oh no, clever dead people gave it to us. And talking of dead people, the difference between our ancestors and us, well, mainly reason and rationality. Look, there's a good story about Descartes. He was one of the fathers of the scientific method, basically. And one night he had a bunch of wacky dreams, and in one of them an angel came to him, apparently, and said, "The conquest of nature is to be achieved through number and measure, and that, surely, has to be one of, if not the most powerful ideas we've ever had. Scientific objectivity. Nature can be understood using mathematics, then controlled using technology. And as long as we remember that the world isn't in our heads, that the universe has a character, well, there may be no limit to what we'll one day be capable of with technology." Rationality is absurdly powerful. It's the reason we're not sitting around in our own excrement. It's the reason the average high schooler knows more about the world than the smartest human did not a few hundred years ago. It's the reason lots of us are living better than every emperor in history. And Jesus Christ, look what we've done already. Antibiotics, or moldy bread in essence, has probably saved about 200 million lives since it was discovered. Your phone has more computing power than all of the computers that NASA used to send humans to the moon. And scientists are now using lasers to listen to black hole collisions billions of years ago via distortion they left behind in the very fabric of fucking space-time itself. Wizards and witches do exist, and they cast spells called research, usually abusing a magic potion called coffee. And if we don't know everything yet, well, better to have questions you can't answer than answers you can't question, don't you think? And furthermore, man, I don't know if we mentioned this, but the world isn't wizards, maths is where nature lives. Say, who got us to the moon? Was it witches or physicists? And if we met aliens, well hey, that'd be salient, but they'd still use technology, science and astronomy. We most likely weren't dreamt up by Zeus in his chariot. We started out as slime and a fucking precariat. The world is complex, but when you really look into it, even biology isn't magic. Not really. Abrupt ending so we can lead into the next musical section. You know, it's weird. We used to build stuff mainly to stay alive and to make other people stop being alive, but then we started building stuff to stop from getting bored, and then we started building stuff to work out how things work. And that is the kicker, because the more you know about how stuff works, the more you can build even more clever toys. And we're getting really good at that now. And my giddy aunt, are strange times ahead. Cue the synthwave, would you, Timothy? I don't know if you were taking notes last century, but we started it not knowing how to fly, and we ended it with moon landings and nukes and the net. Can you imagine if this century is anywhere near as insane? Can you imagine the godlike technologies we'll soon be wielding, good and bad? How about affordable rocket trips, or getting everyone in the world online, or a neuroscientific explanation of consciousness, or halfway successful nuclear fusion, or fully, truly immersive VR, or the birth of an actual science to combat aging, or the death of disease, or convincing AI companions, or mass-scale automation of labor and administration, or proper spaceships that ride light? The universe is a chessboard. Technology works because we've started learning what the moves are that we can make on the board, and we're getting better and better at that game all the time, and there's no sign of it slowing down. And I mean, can you imagine? Give us another 100 years of scientific research and see where we are. Give us another 1,000. Nate, give us 10,000. Give us 10,000 more good years of the scientific method, of careful research and clever application and intelligence. And mate, we're going to be gods. We're going to clothe ourselves in immense power. We're going to kick cancer and Alzheimer's and MS right in the dick. We're going to invent new diseases just to cure them for fun. We're going to build gargantuan starships. We're going to occupy entire galaxies. We're going to step outside of history. We're going to pilot destiny. We're going to burp plasma. We're going to eat lightning. We're going to shit algebra. We're going to build Dyson spheres on our lunch breaks. We're going to fold space and tame chaos. We're going to reverse entropy. We're going to travel through time. We're going to cultivate perfect wisdom. We're going to solve the riddle of being. We're going to have entire weeks when no one's unhappy. Anywhere. We're going to befriend the fourth dimension. It is going to be Brock Lesnar shit. It's going to be the Rubicon all over again. It is going to be fucking biblical. But even then, it still won't be magic or witchcraft, just really, really advanced manipulation of the fundamental physical laws of nature, made possible by the scientific method, by the acknowledgement that nature is bigger than us and that hers is the only game in town. The scientific method might not be much good for telling us who to marry or how to live a good life, but goddamn, it's pretty much got everything else on its to-do list. I mean, how else to put this? Like, if two people were trying to build a rocket, and one guy tried to run his on liquid oxygen and the laws of motion, and the other filled his with dragon piss and good intentions, who do you think could be sipping a cold one on the moon about 3 days from now? The world isn't wizard jizz. An article from an 1863 edition of Scientific American reads, "Experts doubt the sun is actually burning coal." Now, historically speaking, this is fucking hilarious. But the weirdest word there by far is doubt, as in presumably some scientists were taking it seriously then? What the hell was going on? Well, it isn't that ridiculous. This is astronomy about 150 years ago, and if you haven't discovered nuclear fusion yet, and you're trying to work out what makes the sun go, well, the sun has been burning for ages, and what burns for ages on Earth? Coal does? Why not space coal? It was kinda reasonable at the time. Clever, very clever, but wrong. Anyway, I filed that away in my 19th century megalols folder until recently I was sitting in the 21st century horsing into my 5th vodka and battery acid, reading some reviews of a book I was thinking about buying and stumbled on a review that read, "I do not believe in Einstein's relativity. Michelson and Morley in 1887 showed that there is ether and that the Earth is the immovable center of the universe, but they just couldn't bring themselves to believe it, so a new ad hoc lying theory was invented by Einstein." There's also a good bit where the dude solves quantum mechanics. It was quite a ride. But I became fascinated by this review, partly because I'm a homebody with substance issues, but partly because what this reviewer was saying, in effect, was that 130 years ago, scientists actually discovered ether, the exact opposite of what Michelson and Morley are remembered for, we'll get to it in a moment, and that Einstein messed up and physics has been wrong ever since. But there's something weird going on there, because clearly whoever wrote this knows about the experiments they've mentioned. They've read into all of it, they just have an alternate cosmology. And I thought, oh, this is clever wrong again, isn't it? Like the sun burning coal thing. Because to be fair, maybe we did screw up somewhere. Scientific paradigms have been flawed or incomplete plenty of times before. Many used to think that illness was caused by an imbalance of humours in the body, or that the Earth is hollow on the inside, or a brief but robust debate in the 17th century over whether the rings of Saturn were in fact Jesus Christ's ascended foreskin. Ah yes, academics. Love them. Or that dental cavities are caused by teeny-weeny worms, or that vision came from rays emitted from the eyes, or that Mars had canals. Like, we didn't even know there were billions of other galaxies beyond the Milky Way, our galaxy, until about 100 years ago. Considering how deluded we've been before, who are we to be so rigid in our models? How can we know the difference between a revolutionary idea that hasn't yet been accepted and just being deluded? Was Einstein full of shit? Well,
In the 1800s, scientists were quite confused about how light can travel in space. Because sound waves propagate through air, through water, etc., they need a medium. But what medium can light from the sun be traveling through to reach us if space is a vacuum? Well, one theory at the time to explain this was luminiferous ether, a hypothetical medium out there in space that carries light. But how do you test for ether if you can't see it? Well, two scientists called Michelson and Morley had a neat idea. So you get some light and a clever mirror that splits light in two, and two more mirrors and a detector, and the light beam is gonna from here, and the clever mirror is gonna split the light in two, and the two new beams are gonna boing on the mirrors and travel back to meet up again here at the detector together. And if this ether stuff exists, then because the Earth is moving through ether in one direction, one beam should travel slightly slower because it's being slowed relative to the direction of travel through the ether itself. And when you check the beams at the detector, you would expect a weird interference pattern because of the one delayed beam. But actually, well, noops, ether was a clever idea, but wrong. Turns out light doesn't need a medium to travel in. There's a long and more interesting answer here about how sound is a mechanical wave, whereas electromagnetic waves don't need to piggyback on other matter, but essentially ether ain't a thing. Except the kind my great-granddaddy used to huff, yeah! And not only did the Michelson and Morley experiment kill the concept of ether, but more excitingly, it implied that light travels at a constant speed in a vacuum regardless of the observer's frame of reference. Albert Einstein is only a wee nipper at the time, but in 20 years or so, he's going to realize that's significant and turn it into a whole nother pipe of crack called special relativity. And he does that essentially with just two postulates. One, no matter what speed two observers are traveling at, the laws of physics will behave identically for both of them. And two, ignoring acceleration, it doesn't matter how fast you're going, the speed of light will remain constant. It doesn't change relative to your speed, unlike sound waves or fired bullets. And as a result of that, we get time dilation, time travel essentially, length contraction, objects at relatively high speeds will appear contracted for watching observers. Suddenly we know that mass and energy are expressions of the same thing, but most importantly, the usual three-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system gets an upgrade. When asking where you are, we need to know when too. Space, time, the water we swim in. And it wasn't Einstein's idea, it was Minkowski, one of Einstein's former teachers. Einstein wasn't even convinced space-time was a useful concept to begin with, doesn't matter, but what naturally comes next, 10 years later, is general relativity, conceptualizing gravity as the curvature of space-time, which doesn't look like this, not really. As it's often put, matter tells space how to curve, and curved space tells matter how to move. All of this brought to us by the death of one clever wrong idea, ether, in favor of a clever right idea, space-time. And Einstein made endless blunders on the way there himself. He assumed the universe wasn't expanding, which it is. He was pretty convinced gravitational waves couldn't exist, which they do. He was the king of clever wrong. As Bertolt Brecht wrote, "If some discoveries follow our predictions, we will look on them with particular distrust. And only when we have failed, when beaten and without hope we are reduced to licking our wounds, then, with iron in our souls, we will begin to ask ourselves if we might not be right after all." Why are we talking about this? Oh yeah, because light just carried on getting weirder and Einstein was wrong about a bunch more shit. So for centuries before, no one was quite sure what light is. Newton thought light might be made of particles because it can be refracted in a prism, and maybe the different colours are different types of particles. Then again, if you shine two beams of light across each other, just like the Michelson and Morley experiment, if light is made of particles, you'd think there'd be collisions, which there aren't, suggesting light is a wave. So which is it? Well, along comes this absolute unit again and explains something called the photoelectric effect, which is where, so you've got a metal plate and there's atoms in it and stuff, and if you shine a beam of light onto the plate, electrons in the plate are gonna boing, and you can detect them as they're ejected. Now, if we're of the opinion that light is a wave, you'd think you could just keep blasting the electrons with light and increasing the intensity, and eventually you pass a certain threshold and the electrons would dislodge. But actually, as it happens, electrons only dislodge if the light passes above a certain frequency, regardless of intensity or duration of exposure. Why? Well, it turns out that's because light is quantized, as in it travels as little discrete things, photons, not waves. So light is definitely made of particles. But it's also not, because sometimes it produces interference patterns, as we've discussed already. So is light a particle or a wave? And the physics community replied, yes. And so began quantum physics. We're going to need completely new mathematics to describe the wave-particle duality of matter. And what comes next are some pretty famous disagreements between Niels Bohr, another great physicist, and Einstein. The problem was that by then, quantum physics had become a statistical science. It works in probabilities, not least of all the uncertainty principle, one of the pillars of the quantum world. And what that says basically is the more precisely you measure the position of a particle, the less you know about its momentum and vice versa, which points to particles only being available to us before measurement as inherently probabilistic, meaning before measurement, subatomic particles can be treated as being in all possible states, in a superposition. But when we measure them, we collapse the wave function of the particle and they become real, definitive things. But what were they doing before we measured them? With this model, the causality of classical science goes out the window, and Einstein hated this. Surely the universe is deterministic, he thought. We can't just have randomness floating around. There must be hidden variables we don't know about determining what particles are doing prior to measurement. As he put it, God does not play dice. To which Bohr replied, Einstein, stop telling God what to do. But it's beginning to seem today as though God maybe does play dice. Each decade, quantum models of the subatomic just get more and more accurate. If there is some glaring deterministic hole, we ain't found it yet. Quantum theory works just as well if you assume the subatomic world is inherently probabilistic, weird as that may feel. Many today think Einstein was clinging to old classical ways of thinking, and that we've moved past such a paradigm. But in any case, as Brecht put it, the aim of science is not to open the door to infinite wisdom, but to set a limit to infinite error. Why are we talking about this? Oh yeah. Because by then, because of wondering about ether, because of clever wrong disagreements about what light and matter are, we have the two most powerful models of reality humans have ever possessed. Quantum mechanics, the science of the very small, and general relativity, explaining the interplay of matter and curved space. And for all the good they've done for cosmology and technology, they came together to make a monster. About a month after Einstein puts out his paper on general relativity, he receives a letter. It's sent by one Karl Schwarzschild directly from the Russian front of World War I, and it contains a solution to Einstein's field equations, describing specifically how space-time would curve around a spherical body like a star. Today, we call it the Schwarzschild metric. But what the solution predicts is that if, say, a very large star ran out of fuel and, say, collapsed in on itself due to a lack of internal pressure, it would fall into such an extreme state of confinement, it would result in a point of infinite space-time curvature. Einstein would write a paper highly skeptical that these so-called singularities could ever really exist, but in actual fact, what Schwarzschild has just inadvertently discovered are black holes, and they do in fact very much exist. Today, we know even more to be freaked out about. For starters, black holes are not rare. The nearest to us is a mere 1500 light-years away, Gaia BH1, and there are possibly 100 million in our galaxy alone, almost certainly formed by dying stars. A star just 3 times the mass of ours is all the mass needed to create a black hole. Then, of course, there's the supermassive variety, which can be upwards of billions of times the mass of our sun. There's a supermassive black hole at the heart of our galaxy called Sagittarius A star, and probably one at the heart of every other large galaxy. And black hole is quite a misnomer. They're some of the brightest objects in the universe. As gas is pulled in by a black hole, it creates friction with all the other gas already orbiting it, called an accretion disk. Friction so intense it produces light bright enough to see thousands of light years away. Still, it's the inside of a black hole we really have to worry about. Because if you were insane enough to go near one, you would first find yourself inside the ISCO, the innermost stable circular orbit, which is exactly what it sounds like, the last toilet break before apocalypse. Next, you would approach the event horizon. From quantum mechanics, we know that in the normal universe, virtual particle-antiparticle pairs are constantly arising from the quantum vacuum, then annihilating each other. Near the event horizon of a black hole, though, occasionally one of these particles will enter the event horizon, never to return, but its counterpart will manage to escape the black hole in a process known as Hawking radiation. Through this loss of energy, we can infer that black holes are not invincible. Billions of years though it may be, they do evaporate. But nevertheless, Crossing the event horizon, nothing would seem particularly strange to you at first. What's changed is that not only has it become impossible for you to send messages out, but to escape at all. With the escape velocity now equaling the speed of light, nothing leaves. Not light itself, not time. And here, everything begins to break down, including you shortly, thanks to tidal forces, in a process called spaghettification. That is, the gravity at your head is so much weaker than the gravity at your feet, you'll be stretched out like enjoying a medieval torture rack. But assuming you stayed alive somehow, relativity tells us that space-time is soon to become so compacted, it results in a point of zero volume and infinite density, the singularity. This is why nothing escapes, because there simply is no longer an out even geometrically possible. And as the death of dimensionality begins, time would become a spatial dimension, and directionally each path you tried to take out would only lead you further down towards the singularity. And in this way, black holes are not objects, but perfect absence. As relativity stands today, they are schisms in space-time itself, behemoths of infinite curvature, nullifying inescapable, the points at which all the gaps in our modern theories converge. As Brecht wrote, "In the dark times, will there also be singing?" Yes, there will also be singing. About the dark times. Anyway, that can't be the full picture because we don't have a theory of quantum gravity yet. As in, we don't know how to describe gravity on a subatomic scale. Ask a physicist to calculate the gravitational field of an electron in superposition, and you'll either get a shrug or a kick up the arse. And until quantum mechanics and gravity kiss and make up, the inside of black holes are a mystery, as is much of the universe itself. Still, it's been a few months since I found that Amazon review. Obviously, whoever wrote it, I wish them well and hope something they love catches on fire. But the more I think about the thing, the part that irritates isn't the vandalization of thousands of scientists' careers, it's the sadness of missing out on a good story. Because last century physics had a very wiggly plot, and the main characters screwed up just as much as they succeeded, but it was a darn good yarn. And it's all very well to go back through the saga of science and try ripping out the Michelson and Morley parts, but if you do that, then we don't get general relativity. Likewise, if you take out the photoelectric effect, then we don't get quantum mechanics, any more than modern art would make sense without the Impressionists, any more than modern rap would without Old Dirty Bastard. Hey, dirty. Baby, I got your money. What began with a question around a century ago about how light from the sun reaches us ended with discovering furious gravity abominations at the heart of more or less every large galaxy. The world turned out to work so differently to how we expected. It will doubtless keep doing this. And I don't know about you, but whenever I bump into this sort of reality fan fiction about the world being a little flatter than previously advertised or whatever else, okay, if you want to call out missteps in science, that's fine. But if you're trying to start a revolution, you will need revolutionary evidence. Because the idea of ether is just as weird as the modern concept of quantum fields, the fields pervading the entire universe, excitations of which give rise to particles. It's just that quantum fields currently have evidence going for them. That's it. The only difference between clever wrong and clever right is whether or not those hypotheses are confirmed by empirical evidence, whether nature gives us a thumbs up or thumbs down and tells us whether it's true or not, which is very different to just ripping pages out of the story because you want something to be true. That isn't clever wrong, that's just, you know. And maybe the bigger problem is that so much of what's turning out to look true these days doesn't have humans at the center of it. I wonder if you've ever seen Saturn up a telescope. I did, around 10 years old or so. Now, I can confirm that there's no celestial foreskin waiting up there, but still, my initial reaction wasn't, wow, I just lost my shit for an hour and turned into a horrified, crying mess. Because to see it there, not just on a classroom wall or in a textbook, but actually there, to know it's enormous and it doesn't give the slightest damn about me, where was I in that story? Not a fun moment, but children eventually get over themselves, of course, else they become YouTubers. And begrudgingly, I learned that I am relatively very miniature in the grand scheme of things, as we all do. And that was kind of nice, because what no one really tells you when you're little, when everything seems to revolve around you, is that one day, soon, you will stop being center stage. You will grow up and meet many people who are smarter and funnier than you are. You will have to attend birthday parties that are not yours. But in return for that loss of centrality, you will get to set your own bedtime and drive, and accumulate a myriad of ever more damaging but exciting addictions. All the disadvantages of stepping back from being the main character are outweighed by by the perks of becoming an adult. Is it the same with us as a species, maybe? Every moment of scientific integration, every step forward has told us the same thing over and over, which is that we are so much less special than we ever imagined, and yet so much more unique than we can even begin to understand. Natural selection demoted us from unprecedented standalone marvels to just very clever primates, but it also set us inside a multi-million year story of how lucky we were to get here, and how inextricably we're related to the rest of the animal kingdom. As humans, as organisms of the Earth, we really are all one family. Astronomy demoted us from galactic center to living in the cosmic suburbs, in a not particularly remarkable solar system, but also introduced us to a billion other galaxies, and revealed a scale of majesty and beauty our ancestors couldn't possibly have even begun to guess at. Told us that we are conscious extensions of the cosmos itself. You are nothing, you are everything. It's galactic gaslighting. But we could only have made those jumps, we could only have stepped into the new paradigms we occupy today by maintaining our humility, by remembering that we are still very young and we don't know how much we don't know yet. And as the generations go on, this might get worse. If we're to discover parallel branching universes alongside our own, or galactic civilizations that don't give a damn about us, or whatever else, initially we will and try to spit it out for fear of being littled even more. But if nature points that way, then we must get our shoes and socks on and go for a wander over into the next unknown yonder. And it will be just as gorgeous and weird as the last ones we found. So when one is confronted with strange modifications of the scientific story trying to reassert humanity back into the center of everything, fine, but there's the other way. The corridor the empirical evidence is pointing down, where yes, truths are waiting that will sting our pride, but isn't a weird yes so much better than a comforting maybe? We are going on an adventure, don't you want to come? But there's only one rule, which is that you can't bring anything with you. No baggage about how special we are, no biases about how reality should work, and in this way, we will inch closer to finding out what nature is even doing here in the first place. As Brecht probably wrote, I dislike you, review man. I bet you drive a 2004 Fiat Multipla, review man. I bet you say on accident rather than by accident. I bet you put sweet wrappers back in the box. There is no fundamental truth we will encounter in our future investigations that will be so horrific or strange, we will not be grateful we pushed on through the mist in order to attain it. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. As human as it gets.
Fuck, I feel better. So glad we could share this moment together, you know? Now I'm gonna go drink a whole load of whiskey sours and listen to some James Brown. Oh no, I'm still angry. Well, I guess I'll just hold on to this grudge until I die. What a complete waste of my time and yours this has all been. I hate you. Goodbye.
In Iceland today, we expect highs of 7 degrees Celsius, humidity at 78%, and a chance of rain. In Morocco, a high of 24 degrees, wind 6 miles per hour. In France, highs of 20 degrees, minimal precipitation, and 1,600 French citizens will die in the next 24 hours. In Estonia, there will be 6 divorces. In Australia, 2 homicides. In Brazil, 92 people will die in road traffic accidents. In India, 50 people by gun violence. In Poland, 13 people by suicide. In all, 150,000 humans will die today. 27,000 from cancer, 21,000 related to tobacco, and a heart attack will occur somewhere every 34 seconds. Moving into afternoon, globally, around 200 million land animals will be slaughtered. Primarily, that's chickens, ducks, and pigs. At least 1,000 whales and dolphins will die via bycatch and habitat loss. 55 earthquakes will occur. 65 million tons of fertile land will be lost to soil erosion. 71,000 hectares, or 28,000 football fields of trees, will be lost to deforestation. 10,000 square kilometers of land lost to desertification. And 27,000 tons of toxic chemicals will be released into the air, land, and water. By the evening, 150 species will have gone extinct, and 940 million humans will have spent the day without electricity, with 700 million humans continuing to live in extreme poverty. 3 million tons of food will be wasted or lost, that's around a third of all food produced, while 25,000 people will die of hunger today. 93 million tons of carbon dioxide and 1.5 million tons of methane will be released into the atmosphere. 2 billion tons of ice will have melted into the ocean. 90 million barrels of oil will have been pumped. $6 billion globally will have gone on military expenditure for the day, while the human population has been engaged in 40 simultaneous wars. By night, the moon will have receded from the Earth 0.0041 inches. The sun will now have used 51,840,000,000 tons of hydrogen in the last 24 hours, at a rate of 600 million tons a second, with only 1/1,000,000,000th of that energy actually reaching the Earth. On Neptune, we expect temperatures of -225 degrees Celsius and winds of 1,600 miles per hour. On Jupiter, the Great Red Spot, an anticyclonic vortex, will continue to rage as it has done for the last 4 centuries, with wind speeds of 270 miles an hour. On Mercury, nothing will happen. On Enceladus, nothing will happen. 3.7 billion miles from the Sun, Pluto will remain frozen, barren, and dead. From the 100,000 galaxies of our galactic supercluster Laniakea, we expect a continued and total absence of messages suggesting intelligence, confirming we are entirely alone, with the speed of light rendering any and all other solar systems impossibly distant and inaccessible. And in the observable universe at least, 270 million stars will die today. Tomorrow morning, we expect the world to be composed of 80 quindecillion molecules, or an 80 followed by 48 zeros, and that'll probably go on through to the evening. Earth's core will remain stable at a temperature of 5,500 degrees, producing a magnetic field of about 50 microteslas. In the Rio Grande, otters shall be otting. In Peru, marmosets will be doing marmoset stuff. In Antarctica, a family of emperor penguins will be taking the day off to enjoy each other's company. In the human kingdom, sex is likely to occur at least 120 million times across the Earth tomorrow, and thanks to a year of mutual shyness coming to an end, 119 million of those instances will be courtesy of a new couple in Portugal. 100,000 weddings will occur, 385,000 human babies will be born, 20 million humans will be celebrating their birthday, and 700 million children will be attending school. Adjusting for life expectancy and a growing population, tomorrow 300,000 humans will be experiencing the best day of their lives. 2 billion cups of coffee will be consumed, followed by 500 million litres of beer, 40 million litres of ice cream, and 130,000 bottles of Tabasco. At 11:52 a.m, Guido Marconi, aged 4.5, will be making his first attempt at imagining a colour that doesn't exist yet. At 1:29 p.m, Philip Novak, aged 51, will be emptying his attic and find a childhood toy his father gave him when he was little. At 2:07 p.m, Antoni Novak, aged 86, will receive an email from his son after 10 years of silence between them, speaking of forgiveness and asking if they can reunite. The streets of Warsaw will vibrate with an old man's cheering for exactly 23 1/4 seconds. Tomorrow, global life expectancy will increase by 73 days, and 126,000 people will be lifted out of poverty. By evening, 3,000 books will have been published, 4,000 new inventions patented, 12 billion phone calls made, and 300 billion emails sent. 250 miles overhead, the International Space Station will be making 16 orbits of the Earth. 240,000 miles away, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter will be mapping out the Moon. 140 million miles away, on Mars, the Curiosity rover will bravely continue exploring Gale Crater. And in interstellar space, the Voyager probes will travel another million miles from the Earth, with greetings intended for alien ears for the next 1 billion years. Tomorrow, in our galaxy, a new star will be born. In the local galaxies, several 100 million more will be enjoying their first day of existence. The pillars of creation will continue to fluoresce in the Eagle Nebula, and for the next 3 million years, the black hole at the heart of our galaxy will remain a safe 27,000 light-years distant. It is quite possible that somewhere amid the quintillions of planets of the cosmos, new life will begin. It is quite possible that somewhere life will be searching for us. Further out into creation, dark matter will continue to matter, the Hubble constant remaining constant, the speed of light remaining fixed in a vacuum, the laws of nature remaining utterly mysterious, omnipotent, and absolute, from tomorrow until the end of eternity. As in Iceland, we'll be expecting highs of 4 degrees, humidity of 75%, and not even the slimmest chance in fuck of finding out what our purpose is down here on the planet. And now, the sport.